2 months ago, I got to interview Luca Lampariello. This was an amazing experience and I was very glad to be able to do so because I have been following him for the last 4 years. And because I was so excited and we had so much to talk about, it took like almost 40 minutes. So I've decided to make it into 2 parts. And what you're gonna see now is part number 1, and next week I will publish part number 2. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks a lot to my patrons. And if you're ready, let's get started. Hi guys, today I'm extremely excited. We have Luca here with us. I've been meaning to create a video with him for years, but you know, he's a busy guy. And so I'm very happy that Luca, you have found the time today for this call. Maybe, you know, we will have several questions. We actually did a video on his channel. You can go watch it later to see my answers because we thought about some questions. But first of all, let's just maybe, well, I don't think you need an introduction, but maybe someone doesn't know you, and yeah, maybe you can just introduce yourself. And also, I think you have a very interesting project. You can also talk about it a bit if you want. Sure. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's always nice. Finally, we made it after 2 years.
Yes.
So finally here. I'm Luca Lampariello. I'm an Italian guy, and I've been learning languages. I think it's been more than 30 years. I've been learning languages for 33 years now, 34 years.
Wow.
For a long time. I was 10 when I started learning languages officially, I would say. And language learning is my passion, and also education is my passion. So I decided to combine them and create this language learning academy, or smart language learning academy, where we basically train people to learn languages more effectively. We are also building courses about specific languages, so Italian, English, Spanish, etc. But most of all, we train people to learn languages at different levels. For example, you're a beginner, you just started a given language, and we will train you to be a very efficient, smart learner as a beginner learner, intermediate,
great.
And then advanced. And this has been my dream, and I finally fulfilled it.
Yes, cool. It sounds really exciting. Actually, I recommend everyone to go check it out. So, and today we're going to talk about different topics. And the first one is actually something that's very popular nowadays. So everyone's talking about AI, right? And I know some people are afraid of it. Other people are like, yeah, this is the future. Let's ditch everything we've done so far, and so on. So what's your perspective on AI regarding language learning? What do you think will happen in the next years?
Well, first of all, what happened is that I think at the end of last year, ChatGPT happened, and people started talking about AI, and they said, oh my God, now everything is going to change, etc. But the thing is, we've been using AI, artificial intelligence, for a long time. For example, DeepL.
Yeah, we talked about it on the other video.
Yeah, DeepL is an example of artificial intelligence in the sense that DeepL is like Google Translate. Google Translate is another tool, and we have so many other tools, and that use artificial intelligence. So we've been using artificial intelligence for a long time. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, to me, honestly, language learning is not going to fundamentally change in the sense that in order to speak a language fluently, if you want to speak a language fluently, unless you want to communicate through a translator, you need interaction with people. What I think, AI could make a real difference in the sense that, in my case, AI is enhancing my experience of learning languages. It's making everything easier and more fun to do. There's a video that you can watch that was Steve Kaufman made this video recently talking about how AI can transform language learning, and it's never been as fun as now. Like, imagine 30 years ago where you didn't have translators. Now you have the capacity of fetching any text, translate it on the fly, create interlinear translations, use artificial intelligence to create subtitles for you or entire transcriptions. So that in and of itself is a big change. On top of that, one thing that ChatGPT, I know you're not using ChatGPT for now, but ChatGPT is really making a difference in my case, is that as a beginner, it helps me understand much faster. What do I mean by that? To me, the ideal situation to learn a language is when you have someone next to you, like a tutor, for example, and let's say you're trying to dissect texts and you have a question you don't understand, that person explains that to you. Yeah. Unfortunately, we do not have the luxury of having someone sitting next to us unless we pay them. And even if we pay them, maybe we can see them once a week, maybe twice a week. Yeah. Now, with ChatGPT, and I can give you a very concrete example, with ChatGPT, if you have a doubt, you can ask ChatGPT to dissect a given sentence and give you the single components. Okay. So, I think I have it here. It's just next to me. So, just to give an example, this is stuff that I generated with AI.
Nice.
So, like, let's say...
So you combine, like Asimil with, your notes and also with ChatGPT.
That's exactly right. So as you can see, for those who do not know Asimil this is not an ad to Asimil. I don't work for them, but it's just I recommend it for certain languages. For Turkish, it's absolutely great. So you have the text in Turkish, the text in Italian. Now, what happens is that as a beginner, this has been created and conceived for beginners who just, just started learning the language. Yeah. The problem is that, yes, you have the translation, but having a translation is not enough to understand the single parts, because sometimes the language is so different, the structure, especially Turkish. Yeah. So you have the notes. The notes help you clarify the points that you cannot figure out yourself just by comparing the structure of the two languages. Yeah. But sometimes what happens is that even with grammar notes, you still do not understand certain parts. Now, what has changed with ChatGPT is that you can simply copy the text, copy one line, and ask ChatGPT, please break this down word by word and tell me exactly what each word means and each function of the word. That has been a big game changer. And I've been using ChatGPT to combine different words. We're building an entire course on how to use ChatGPT because I think it can really, it's making my life much faster and much easier when it comes to learning languages at this stage. Mm-hmm. So that's the one thing. And another very important key thing to discuss or to touch upon is the following. I don't know about you, and I don't know about your experience learning languages. Yeah. I don't know about people, that ask you for advice, but a big misunderstanding when it comes to language learning is that people who start learning a language, they focus a lot on memorizing things. They ask, how can I memorize fast? Well, as a beginner, it's difficult to memorize. You should focus on understanding rather than memorizing, right? And
well, in my opinion, you should never memorize, but maybe that's just me.
I agree with you. You should not memorize anything, but the difference between a beginner and an intermediate is that while a beginner does not have an infrastructure already built, while an intermediate has an infrastructure that allows another piece to fit in the infrastructure, it's easier to understand because you have more pieces of the puzzle together. Sure. So in a nutshell, and I'll finish here, otherwise this interview is going to last 3 hours. You're like, hey, let's cut.
It'll be just Luca talking about AI.
Luca talking about AI, the entire video. So just to sum up, I think that instead of being scared, we should embrace it, but we should use it in order. We've already been using it for some time, and we can use it even better in order to enhance what is already fun, which is, nowadays you can go on YouTube, you can go to the internet and learn and use whatever you want, however you want it. Yeah.
It's great. It's interesting because I told you I don't use ChatGPT because I'm a bit slow with such things. Like I will probably start using it like in 3 years.
It will happen. It's like email. You're using email. It will be necessary for you to use it. So maybe not now, but it will happen down the line.
Yeah, but it's very interesting to see how you're more like an analytical polyglot, I think. I'm not, you just really like, or maybe like that's my interpretation, but I have the feeling that you really like deep diving very much into things like sentence structure, or why is this word like that, like kind of more analytical, right?
Yes and no. I would say yes and no, in the sense that in reality I like spending, to me the first 3 to 6 months are really important. You were touching upon this in the other video that we made, that for example, if you're learning a foreign language that is very distant, you spend some time trying to figure out the basics, because trying the natural approach with a language that is really different, I think it's going to slow you down. So you need some time to figure it out through translation or through other things. So I tend to spend 3 months to 6 months analyzing the language. But in reality, I don't particularly like it. I just spend that time. So I like it, but I don't particularly look forward to delving into Turkish grammar every single day. But once I have understood through Asimil and ChatGPT the basic structure, then the real fun for me starts, which is a massive input, listening to content that I like.
Cool.
This is called in linguistics, or like in literature, it's called weak interface hypothesis. So basically, the massive input hypothesis is like get as much input as possible, and you're going to learn the language. This applies well when a language you're learning is very similar to the one you already speak.
Because it's comprehensible.
Italian, Spanish, right?
I'm always saying incomprehensible input is almost useless.
Useless, yes. But in the case of Turkish,
to be comprehensible. You need to start with the structure. You need to take a course or something.
Yes.
You need to get to a point where you're a little bit, independent. Like you need.
Yes,
that's called. You're right. So I think we agree. Yeah,
we agree. Yes, that's called a weak interface hypothesis in the sense that you need a little bit of deliberate learning in order to then absorb the language implicitly. You know.
Oh, that's super interesting. Yeah,
I actually
knew that intuitively, but I didn't know it had a name. I never looked it up.
There's a video. Maybe I can send it to you later. You can put it in the description box by a Japanese linguist who talks about this. He apart from the fact he's got a very thick Japanese accent, but he speaks English. But apart from that, the presentation is brilliant and talks all about that. So all about these different hypotheses and different approaches.
Great. I think we've talked a little bit about like how it is to learn a language that's very different and to learn one that's very similar. But how do you actually approach this in your courses? Because your course is about learning how to learn, but maybe one person is learning Greek and the other one is learning Spanish, and like everyone's learning different languages. And is there like a unique way to start learning a language, or would you say, like we just mentioned, like if you were to learn, I don't know, do you speak Portuguese?
I do.
Oh man, do you speak Occitan, or how it's called in English?
No, that's.
How would you approach it? So would you approach it analytically, or would you just go in with input directly?
So this is a very interesting question. My answer is that I always use the same technique, which is called the bidirectional translation method, applied to this. So I take something like this, which is Asimil. If I don't have Asimil, I find Pod 101 or another resource that is conceived for beginners, and then I apply this bidirectional translation. What does it mean? It means that now, we don't have time to get into the technicalities, the details, the nitty-gritty details of how it works, but fundamentally, it's a method that allows you to, as I was saying before, understand rather than memorize. So you take this text, you have it in it, for example, every single unit has one part. This is the French version, but just to give an idea, let's say you're learning Turkish and your native language is Spanish. You translate, for example, apart from the usual reading, listening, analyzing, understanding, then you translate it one day, for example, into Spanish by writing yourself, and you might ask, why do I have to translate into Spanish myself if it's already written in Spanish? And that you will see that you pay much more attention to when you translate, because you cannot translate if you can't translate something that if you don't understand it, which is the main point. And then you translate it back into Turkish 1 or 2 days later, and that allows you to start actually testing yourself and see. And when you test yourself, then you compare your result with the text in Turkish. That allows to self-correct. It allows you to develop, to think directly in the target language without necessarily memorizing anything. So you memorize as a consequence, but it's not the main focus. It works really well, and you can apply it to every single language. So that's how I start. And after 3 months, I get the so-called base, which allows me to then implicitly learn a language by delving into content that I create for myself. I find it on the internet. Oh, I like astronomy. Let's find podcasts about astronomy. So it prepares me for the fun. That's great. You have to imagine it like climbing a mountain. You climb a mountain. you just cover the stretch that is like you're sweating, and then you see the landscape there and say, okay, now I'm going to have fun.
Is it like your motivation, like going through these like 3 months, if it's getting boring? Because I could imagine, to me, this, like, I don't want to offend you, but it sounds like a struggle to go through this 3 months. If it's a language that's very different, right? Like Turkish or maybe Japanese or Chinese, or
it's a great point. It's an excellent point, and I'm not offended at all. It's an excellent point. In fact, my answer would be, and I'm experiencing this because we're recording this video on the 26th of March of 2024, and I started learning Turkish on the 1st of January. So
so you're like almost there.
I'm almost there. I skipped just one day, but the reason why I kept at it is, first of all, because I normally impose this to myself through what we discussed before. It's not motivation, it's the system. I built a system so that I make it happen like brushing your teeth. This is almost automatic. But, however, having said that, this has become very heavy, has become not boring, but heavy. And maybe, yes, even a little bit boring after. So you get all excited at the beginning, and then after 2 or 3 months, it's time to leave. In fact, I've been reviewing a little bit of it, but I've moved already to another method because it becomes a little bit heavy, it becomes boring.
Like a chore, maybe.
It becomes like a chore. But the thing is, after I've done this, I have really learned the basics of the language. Now everything is so much easier. Now I can translate.
You can watch videos and be like, haha, now I understand.
Well, maybe.
Well, like adapted videos, maybe.
Adapted videos. So maybe not directly watch a TV series in Turkish.
Of course not.
But I can now do the stuff I like the most, which is watching, for example,
cool.
super easy Turkish videos that are like adapted to my level, or download a podcast at a native level. That is where I really have fun, and now it's much easier. Without this, just by trying to get massive input, it would take me much more. So I go kind of. Let's put it this way. I run at the beginning and I sweat a lot for 3 months, but then everything gets easier because
and like you have this goal on your mind, like, haha, soon I will be listening to podcasts, maybe, I don't know, that's how I
No, that's true. That's true. I know exactly what I want to do. So the first 3 months I do this, the next 3 months I do that, the next 3 months, the 3 months after that. It's very structured. I'm a little bit OCD, but
And you're also kind of studying every day, right? So it's a daily routine. This makes your progress a lot faster, right? Because I met a guy, he was like, I've been learning Japanese for 4 years, but then I said, hey, how often do you actually, study it or just do something? And I was like, once a week. Well, I mean, it's going to take you a long time, just once a week, like 1 hour once a week, right?
So it's called a compound effect. To me, when people give you an amount of years, it's pointless. It's
pointless, yeah.
A very important question is, it's not when did you start learning, but how much time did you spend learning on average?